And welcome back to the Legislative Lounge. I'm your host, Nate Bigelow, and my co-host, Mike Bales. How are we doing today, Mike?
I think I'm melting in my garage.
It's been pretty hot over there, huh?
Yeah, it's about 105.
Oh, Lord. But, it's not like a 98 with like 80% humidity like it is here in Houston.
It is humid right now. It is humid. Contrary to popular belief, it's monsoon season, so
Uh-huh. Right.
we had a bunch of rain and thunder last night.
Well, so this last week was kind of interesting with a couple of big ticket items that's kind of like in the controversial area, which honestly it shouldn't be with President Trump. One of the big ones that's going to have the left all up in arms is the current executive order that he had signed last week in regards to ending the funding for Medicaid paying for transgender surgeries and care in general for children. I mean, me personally, I don't see why that was ever a topic, why we should be paying for that in the first place as taxpayers.
I think the entire thing should be banned. I mean, these are children we're talking about, and you're talking about mutilating them.
Right.
I thought children couldn't consent.
Right. I mean, the hypocrisy of the left always, it's never ceasing, honestly. I mean, we could talk about the whole transgender issue with, what's going on in the WNBA. Have you heard about that, Mike?
I support those two women. That woman has beautiful flowing blonde locks now.
Absolutely. Just the elegance. I mean, the just sheer size of that woman is amazing. And for those that aren't aware of what we're talking about, Enes Kanter, who is a former NBA star for a couple different teams, he was actually pretty good. And I can't remember the other one, but he was also in the NBA, have a formally challenged, I should say, the WNBA in coming forefront to actually define what a woman is. And how they've done that is they have actually entered the 2027 WNBA draft as former NBA stars, formally declaring that they are women because they want to challenge the narrative that's been going around within the WNBA. If anybody hasn't been paying attention, is there has been some fight with one of their stars in the league in Sophie Cunningham, who plays for the Indiana Fever. She's an individual that has been challenging the status quo when she was asked about whether or not she supports the nonsense of transgender ideology. And of course, being a level-headed, person out of the clouds, down on earth individual that Sophie Cunningham is, she of course said she doesn't subscribe to that nonsense. Well, that made a
100%.
whirlwind of issues because the whole WNBA as well has been under this whole racial divide, anyways, with her teammates. I'm blanking on her name right now, but
Caitlin
she's like the
Clark.
star. Caitlin Clark, there we go. I don't know why I couldn't remember that because I just had it. But she has been the star. She is the white Michael Jordan of the WNBA, and there's absolutely no question about it. If anybody watches how she plays, she just outshines. Like she's on I think a 3 or 4 game streak of scoring over 40 points right now, which has never happened in the WNBA. She made a record of like 45, 46 points in a game just the other day. And they've just been attacking this girl because she's white and is predominantly black women in the WNBA. Some of them are questionable. I'm just going to say that whether or not they're
She's
actually women.
she's a great player. I mean, not
Oh,
only
absolutely.
not only is she great at shooting the threes all day, but she also she's not a ball hog. She incorporates the rest of her team. Most of her highlights are not just her scoring, but also passing the ball and letting her team score. Sophie Cunningham included.
Right. And I mean, so with that whole thing, and then her, Cunningham coming out talking about the issues around transgenderism, and then you have these activist coaches wearing, I support trans children and all this other nonsense. Ennis Cantor and the other gentleman have, like I said, formally made he actually came out and made a press conference about it essentially, and it went absolutely viral. And he's formally entered the the WNBA draft. So it'll be interesting because right after that, the WNBA then announced that they're going to have some kind of emergency meeting because their bylaws don't actually define what a woman is. right? So there's been questions about some of the players in the WNBA. I'm not going to name names, but one was arrested in Russia for having some marijuana. Um, and it's kind of one of those people that just by looking at them that something's fishy there. But we'll leave it at that. You guys probably know who I'm talking about. And it's forcing the WNBA to have this uncomfortable, conversation. So, what do you think is going to come out of it, Mike?
I think, I mean, there's already a lot of tension behind the leadership in the WNBA for defining what reality is, and it's comical because they have to walk back everything they've said previously, and now that these superstars have decided to join the draft, I think that it's going to be dominant. It's going to be a woman is a biological female with XX chromosomes, like we all know it is. But to go back on the children topic with the revocation of those types of surgical interventions, I can't even
Mm-hmm.
call them interventions. These procedures of mutilation, these
Mm-hmm.
things that just destroy children, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. We're talking about interfering with their basic physiology, their biology, their hormonal panels, their guidance through puberty. You're destroying all of that, and nobody knows hormonal imbalances. You know, more than service members. We're exposed to varying circumstances where we might be emotionally pressured or we might go through physical challenges that just pushes our body to the extreme. That's detrimental on the hormones in the body, detrimental to the
Yeah.
physiology, whatnot. And a lot of service members have to hop on TRT replacement, and to try to push those types of interventions in children is just ridiculous. It's not to mention things like Lupron, where it stunts or interferes with the production of certain hormones. These are chemically
Mm-hmm.
castrating drugs. It's it's horrible.
Yeah, so I applaud the president for stepping in and protecting our children just another step. And I mean, even to kind of spin off of that, Texas had a major win just about a week or two ago, also within the same realm, where I believe it was the Texas Children's Hospital was illegally conducting sex change operations and therapy for children when it was against the actual law here in the state of Texas. And the Attorney General Ken Paxton sued, and a part of the actual lawsuit that they won, they had to not only pay millions of dollars, they had to fire all of those medical professionals that were part of that situation. But then also they had the part of the requirement is that they had to open a detransitioning center within the hospital. So I absolutely love it. I believe I read this just today or last night. There's another situation. I want to say it's in like Virginia or something where there's similar situations going on. So we'll have to monitor that as well. But the fact that we're in a society where we want to mutilate our children, but God forbid a 15-year-old get a tattoo, but it's okay that they can cut off their genitals or it just I don't understand how we've come so far from reality to get to this point.
It's definitely scary for parents who have their children in public schools, because these
Right.
are a cesspool for that ideological push towards the left, and we see this in detransitioner stories. We've seen them all
Hmm.
online, and as despite the fact that the left tries to cover them up, these detransition stories are horrific. Um,
Absolutely.
Scott Nugent
I
is
mean, you could.
a pretty prominent detransitioner,
Right.
and
I mean, you can even look at the statistics around people in the transgender community. People like to say, "Oh, it's because of the hate they get." No, it's prior to all that. They have one of the highest mortality rates due to suicide and being on SSRIs, which are depression pills, anti-anxiety, things of that nature. And you wonder why. It's like you're dealing with a mental illness that you're not actually addressing, and that's the problem. And I will sit here with my bold face saying that it is a mental illness. It's called gender dysphoria. It's been a part of the categories of medical diagnosis diagnosis for generations now, and we're not going to sit here and sugarcoat it for you guys. It is a mental illness, and it is called gender dysphoria. But what Mike was saying is that we hear about these children in public schools dealing with counselors. I believe about 2 years ago. I don't know if it was like in Oregon or something, where the school was helping this child go through transitioning without telling the parents.
Yeah.
And they found all this medicine, and they were prescribing all of this to their child. And it's like you wonder why there's such a huge movement, especially here in the state of Texas, for homeschooling. We don't trust our school systems anymore.
100%. But when we were talking about medications that your SSRIs and whatnot, we see this closely mirroring the veteran population again. So a lot of veterans that get out are dealing with complex symptoms of PTSD, and where we see the trans community have high suicidality rates, we see the same in the veteran community, and there's a lot of correlation to the amount of medications that are prescribed to these veterans. As of right now, I do believe it's still 22 to 23 a day veterans that take their lives. Very, very sad. And it's very sad that there are so many transgender people that see that option is their only option. I wish that they would actually seek proper help, not affirmation. Affirmation is not therapy. Therapy is there to help you get through a problem, and that problem is called gender dysphoria, as Nate was describing.
All right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how they react to this. Of course, with anything that the president does, it's always challenged. So I expect states like California, Oregon, Washington, Minnesota, and all the hellholes that we call democratic states are out here going to challenge it. So it'll be interesting to watch how they do it. But I mean, it's just, I have no words for this type of situation, because it's like this is children that we're dealing with, not adults that can make their own individual choices. Like when it comes to the children, you don't mess with them. We have this saying, even when we're like doing clap backs on social media with people that we don't politically align with, children are off limits, and we mean that in all aspects of life, right? So it's one of those issues. As a father, as a father, it hits close to home. When I'm thinking of other people messing with my child, I become very sinister. Is the easiest way, the most PG way I could say it.
I would say I become very protective. I become increasingly interested in why this is being talked about and what actions I can take to negate these from affecting my children. And yeah, I don't see how you can combat this, but they'll probably come up with something silly that will just get smacked down by the Supreme Court anyway, as they've done in the past.
Now, but I kind of spinning off that, staying on the topic of children, right? More specifically, a little bit younger, right? The president is signing another executive order officially establishing the recommendation of the HHS, Health and Human Services, from Robert Kennedy Jr. and his analysis through his department of doctors and medical scientists that have shown that 72 vaccines for an infant is absolutely ludicrous.
Drop.
And he's now moving it down to about 11. So this executive order would say that the mandated recommendation of vaccines would move from 72. I don't think people I had done a video today, and I said the stats of all of this, and people are like, "How 72? Since when?" I was like, "You didn't pay attention to your children then, huh?" That's why my children are not vaccinated, and they're perfectly healthy, right? They don't ever get sick. But you got kids out here taking 72 vaccines. Now you're going to see a huge spike in health with children because of them not having such high toxicities. The problem with these vaccines is that they have high amounts of mercury and a bunch of other heavy metals. That's why you could believe what you want. The studies are studies, and they have been hidden, and Robert Kennedy Jr. has been releasing them, and we knew that they were there. There's a whole community out there of the anti-vax that believe that autism is caused by this, because when you actually dive into the studies behind autism, it's basically heavy metal toxicity that has actually corroded the brain.
100%.
And that's exactly where it's coming from. is the high amounts of mercury and iron and all this other stuff that they find in these vaccines. And when you're pumping 72 of them into your child before the age of 2, what do you think's going to happen?
We
Like, you're rolling the dice, literally.
we saw this big push in the early to late 90s, and what we're seeing now that was correlating to this, a lot of people like to push back against the causation aspect, but
Hmm.
there's some causation in this correlation. In the 90s, what we saw as time went on with the heavy push of vaccines in children was a very large dramatic increase in autism diagnosis, which is why Robert Kennedy Jr. decided to take such interest in this. So this being pushed back down to 11, which they're not mandatory, right, Nate? They're still up to the parent.
No, yeah. So like they have the high, is a recommended, right? So you basically the doctors, whenever you go to the doctor, they be like, oh, did they get vaccinated on this, and this? That'll be cut down from 72 to 11 is the
That's
recommended.
beautiful.
So
That's beautiful.
and a lot of people sit here and say, well, the science, the science, the science. Well, we can take a look at the science. There's no problem with that. Let's take a look at Japan, who has the lowest number of comorbidities of children, least amount of obesity, has the least amount of SIDS. For those that don't know, is sudden infant death syndrome, and a plethora of other childhood allergies and asthma and all this other stuff. They have the lowest numbers across the board. Guess how many they have? 10. They only recommend 10. You wonder why you sit here and have all of these high toxicities and pumped into your. Now, there's a difference by pumping something directly into your bloodstream, into your body, rather than ingesting it. You have to go through a whole filtration system. But they don't get that filtration system when you stab them and pump it directly into their bloodstream. It makes a whole different issue because, especially if it's heavy toxicity metals and stuff like that, like MMR, the MMR is one of the most highly toxic vaccines out there, and I've got all the studies. You can ask Mike. I've got binders full of studies of this stuff. It's not something that I'm just saying this because I'm some conspiratorial anti-vaxxer. Because you can ask my wife. I was actually pro-vaccine with my firstborn. My firstborn is actually vaccinated up to the age of 1 because I fought her on it because I didn't believe the information, right? I didn't believe the changes in the vaccines that happened from when I got them back in the 90s to what they are today in 2017 when I had my child. But after I started noticing something with my child in that first year after getting vaccines, we stopped. And then my second child didn't give her anything, not even the vitamin K stuff on the eyes and whatnot when they give her nothing. Guess which one is more healthy?
Oh,
Guess which one never gets sick more than the cold?
well, a lot of people don't understand the science behind natural immunity, and we saw this with COVID. And you and I were big proponents on natural immunity because me,
Hmm.
I am so vaccinated, it's not even funny. 72 is a low number. I've had every vaccination and then some because of the military. Like my list of vaccines is like multiple pages. But when we look at natural immunity, that natural immunity is built from the body being exposed to a virus or a bacteria or what have you, and is able to develop counter options against it, counterattacks. The body gets used to it, and when you actually look into each vaccine or each disease that we're supposed to be inoculated for, you can see that the death rate for vaccine individuals is significantly higher than those with natural immunity or those that did not take the vaccine. So,
And yeah, I mean, we can even dive into the statistics or the information surrounding, the vaccines. They don't actually test for how much to give a child at a certain age. They just give a recommended, this is what all children get. But they don't actually do the mathematical equations to figure out for this body, for this child with these issues possibly pre existing at this weight and this age. like what we would do for any other vaccine as an adult. It's based off of, like, I'm not going to get the exact same thing my wife would. Being nearly 200 pounds myself, my 105-pound wife at 4'10", me being, 5'9" at, nearly 200 pounds, we're not going to get the same thing. But they don't do that for children. But then also at the same time, you take a look at certain issues with genetic markers, right? They don't take those into factoration. Or, you have the MKFG mutated form. I can't remember it. My wife knows it, but there's a gene specific to that it can be mutated, and this goes across all people. They don't take those things into factor because somebody with that particular gene that's mutated won't react to antihistamines and things of that nature in a particular manner as you. So when people say, "Oh, well, I got it," they'll be fine. How do you know that? Have you done genetic mapping of them? Do you know how their body interacts with specific elements being introduced to their body? See, that's the problem, is that science is so lacking because they just want to pump out money, right? That's all the purpose of pharmaceuticals is. They don't care about actually fixing people or making them inoculated to disease. They just want the money that comes behind
100%.
it.
This is why people who go on hormone replacement therapy, they get extensive blood panels, and the endocrinologist looks at these and measures appropriately the precise dose that, based on your blood panels and your body weight and your height and your body fat, right? These are all factors that are taken into consideration when determining what your dosage should be. And the fact that there's not that
Right.
level of care taken into consideration with children, because when we're talking about TRT, we're talking about individual males that are between, we'll say, 35 and 60 years old, people that have already matured physiologically. But when it comes to children,
Right.
there is no case study that exists that factors into those complex considerations that we're talking about.
Oh, there is. They're just hidden and they're being released. They're out there. The problem is they were never released. They were never allowed. And that kind of moves me into our next area about how we can even spin off of this into the COVID realm, right? Like recently, it was released, the documentation of emails, text messages from Dr. Fauci, and how this only proves what I was just saying on how things are covered up. He, in January of 2021, right, made an internal email to one of his other coworkers within the NIH talking about his huge concern in regards to a cytokine storm within women, which it's way too much medical information to explain for you guys, but you can just look it up. A cytokine storm is something that happens within the body that reacts. It's kind of kind of like an allergic reaction in a way, internal your cells. But essentially what it does is it's basically your body fighting itself. So what this email talked about is his issue with the cytokine storms within pregnant women within their first trimester, and within that he said that it was showing what was like 86% of women that received the second dose of the COVID vaccine was seeing a 86% higher chance of actually having a miscarriage. So when we go back to the time of all of this happening, all of those stories of women having these random miscarriages out of nowhere, tens of thousands of them, and then we see this, but then you look at the information from February on, it was, the NIH stands on the fact that there's no evidence showing that there's any issues with women in their first trimester, and there's documented proof of this. But his internal emails are showing that he directly lied to the American people. So the pharmaceutical companies, we don't trust you. We never have. This is why. You want to sit here and you want to say, oh, we're just conspiracy people. But in reality, this is the stuff we deal with. We deal with people like Dr. Fauci.
I mean, what was it when the Pfizer vaccine first got pushed out in their first quarter? Pfizer made billions of dollars, and
Billions.
nobody on the left cared about it. Well, actually, when these vaccines were first pushed by Trump, none of the left wanted to take it. They wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Then all of a sudden, the change in administration, they're like, take it. We'll give you free Krispy Kreme donuts if you take it.
Or a burger and fries. Yeah, that's great to have burgers and fries to make sure that I take this experimental drug that's literally been tested on animals and every single animal died. FYI, I've got the study to prove it, and we can possibly even throw it up on here. And we're gonna sit here and say, get some burgers and fries, but you might have a chance of
And
death on the side.
you have a case study sitting right in front of you if you're watching this show. I am vaccinated with the Pfizer vaccine. Nate is not. So we'll see what happens to me in the future. Although I have taken some precautionary measures as far as excreting heavy metals out of my body, so there might be some help for me.
Yeah, you can go through, and I suggest this to anybody watching. If you're worried about that, just in case, do a heavy metal detox. Right, you can get diatomaceous earth or any kind of a factor. Put onions on in your socks. That helps at night as well. Like there's a many different things that you guys can do naturally to help
Mhm.
detox the body. So if you're worried about that, look up different things or hit me up. My wife, that's all she does. She writes books on it and reads about this stuff all the time about detoxing. Like you should see our house. I know Mike has. We've got this cabinet full of stuff. I call it her witch's potions cabinet because she literally makes her own
Yeah.
medicine. So reach out to us if you guys want that information. I've got you guys, but it's just we've gotten to this point where the American people have such a distrust in almost every aspect of leadership here in America. If it starts with Congress, the president, whoever, all the way down to even the people that are supposed to be protecting our health.
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do?
Well, now Mike and Nate are not medical professionals, but we do know about losing weight, and we do know about what to eat and what not to eat. So if y'all have questions, by all means, reach out. We can give you things that we have tried. We're not endorsing these aspects as medical professionals because that's not us.
No.
But I gave Nate some helpful advice in regards to losing weight. He's made some huge accomplishments. Went from 260 to 195.
Yeah, it's 260 and I'm about 195
So
right now.
huge accomplishments. I mean, when I got out of the military, very hard transition. I was 145. Now I'm about 182. So there, and
Lean. Make sure you didn't gain 40 pounds of fat. They don't.
you can see, you can go look, you can go check out
Nah,
the
he's
social
still good.
medias, and you'll see that I'm not obese or anywhere close to fat. I try to get fat, but it ain't working. But
We just went the opposite way. We're meeting in the middle at like 185.
it's imperative, no matter what stage of life that you're at, to choose the right things to eat. Don't choose the right things, or don't choose the easy things. The easy things are the Uber or the
Mm.
DoorDash, the McDonald's, the Burger King, the Panda Express. There are healthy options out there that are affordable, contrary to popular belief. There's no such thing as a food desert in America. I hate that notion that people are deprived of resources that'll give them the means to eat healthy. It is complete BS.
Steak, chicken, and rice ain't expensive, people. You're just
You know what I
making
mean? You
excuses.
need chicken. You can get something cheaper.
Big brother Nate. I tell you how it is, right? Steak, chicken, and rice, or even potatoes. You go even cheaper. It's actually better than rice, honestly. Steak and potatoes, steak and chicken.
Yep. Oh,
You're
you can
good.
even do you could do tuna. Tuna's very cheap. If you like tuna, my wife hates tuna, so
Yeah. I don't really care for it, but like I say, if you have a goal, it's a mindset. Honestly, it's not your body, it's your mind. That's the biggest issue, right? You might have some hormonal issues. I know that firsthand. I've dealt with that. So we can get that cleared up by eating correctly. It's your mind that's holding you
and
back.
you know
So
one
keep
of
that
those
in.
aspects of your mind is your hormone production is, which is something to look at, which aids in that difficulty in losing weight. There's no denying it, but it's not the primary
Hmm.
cause of you being overweight. The primary cause of you overweight is you not putting down the fork, right? There ain't nobody eating 500 calories a day for an extended period of time still fat, right? There's no way to do it. There's no way you are gaining weight while you're eating 500 calories a day. So it's
And if you want to eat 3,000 calories, just make sure that you're expending 3,000
mhm.
calories or more. You won't get fat. It's just the way it is. Like you won't have the health issues. You won't have the, the heart disease, the diabetes, the kidney disease, all this other stuff. And we're not saying this to get on people. We're encouraging you. We want to get you guys better because I've been there, right? I've had the fatty liver. I've had the health issues. I've seen what diabetes, not me personally, but I've seen what diabetes does to people. Like we've all seen it. So we're out there to encourage you guys to get better. But again, we're not medical professionals. We're giving you what our experience
100%.
is. Find what's
100%.
right for you.
But with those choices in healthy foods, with those choices in exercise, whatever it may be, whatever's comfortable for you, also pay attention to your mental health. Your mental health is incredibly imperative because when
Yes.
you're stressed, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. Cortisol is a detriment towards building muscle, and it aids in the accumulation of fat. So, if you need,
That's what I said just a minute ago. I meant it more than what I said. I meant it into that aspect. Your mind is the first thing that you have to overcome, especially in your health journey, regardless of what it is. Your mind is like you can tell yourself that you feel better, and you might actually feel like that. And you do that long enough, your body actually does. There's studies that say this, and like there's even studies of talking to plants in a positive way, and they can actually react. So your words, your mind, the way that you interact with yourself is very vital on how your health journey is going. Tell yourself you're going to get 1% better every day, and you will.
100%.
I mean, obviously, if you're sitting there eating ho-hos at the same time, you might want to adjust.
I don't know what to tell you guys about that if you're eating ho hos and ding dongs and Twinkies.
But yeah, so I mean, kind of rounding it back to what we normally do. We always throw in some health and wellness in there because that's just what we do. But I know this. We've been talking about it repeatedly over the last couple of weeks and what the state of the Senate is right now. And honestly, I'm see, it's hard for me to be surprised, Mike, anymore, honestly. But at the same time, I'm deeply disappointed, right? They didn't like we had a vote, right? At least I'll give them that. They at least had a vote on the Save America Act, right? It was what 52 to 46, so it didn't meet the threshold because there was a couple senators out, stuff like that. But the vote came down to 52 to 36 or 46, and it needed the 60%. But one thing that I found interesting, I believe it was House Representative Randy Fines was the one that said that, outside of putting it on the reconciliation bill, which I mentioned last week as a possibility, there would have to be a rule with a parliamentarian and all that stuff. But, that can be worked out. Will that actually happen? Probably not. I'm going to be real with you guys. You know me. We're real. That's probably not going to happen. But there is another possibility that he brought up, Representative Fine, is that adding it to an already deeply popular bill, which is the no insider trading by or even the one that has to do with trading in general as a congressional member. Like that was one that garnered quite a few votes from both sides in the House of Representatives. So the Senate could actually have an amendment process to the bill and add that into that.
I mean,
That'd be interesting to see. Will it pass?
we talked at nauseam about how imperative the Save
Depends.
America Act is. I mean, with the amount of fraud that's been coming out about voting and whatnot, and things that have happened in Arizona. Oh, did you know that Nate, during the primaries, they in Arizona calculated 676,000 votes in 26 hours? I thought votes of that magnitude couldn't be tabulated in that process.
Funny how that works, right? Because we look back to 2020, 2024, where Arizona,
and
took a
those
few
were
days?
a
Maricopa
majority
County
of those were
alone?
ballot drop-offs. They weren't vote-in-person ballots. They were mail-in ballots. So
It's funny how that works. If you just do in-person voting one day, stuff gets done pretty
big
quick,
thanks to Justin Heath, Maricopa County Recorder.
Right. And I mean, I know that they had the primaries in Minnesota and I believe South Carolina today. Lindsey Graham's sister, she made it to the runoff for the Senate down there in South Carolina. Not sure what's going on over in Minnesota yet. I believe their polls are closing. They probably just closed. The time difference, I don't know if they're central or they either just closed about 30 minutes ago or they're going to close in 30 minutes. Let's put it that way. And I know one of the primary things that they're looking at is the gubernatorial election with Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy, which is a strong candidate for the Republican ticket. So it'll be interesting to see how he does up there in that particular area. Now, will he win the actual general if he makes it?
Well, I mean,
Probably not.
in
I mean,
in
Minnesota is
Frogland, are the
foregone.
polls ever closed?
Well, that is one interesting fact that you say. I did see the DOJ that announced that they were actually going to monitor the polls in Minnesota during this primary. So it'll be interesting how
Yeah.
that all turns out. So the DOJ
Yeah.
is mobilizing.
You know, Josh Hawley, to hop on a different
Yeah,
topic
from
real
Iowa.
quick, just to gauge get your take on it.
Yeah.
He was he was talking about, we've done no taxes on tips, we've done no taxes on overtime. What would you say about being able to write off insurance costs? No taxes on insurance.
I remember him talking about that last year. Actually, they brought it up last year. I absolutely agree with that. I think that is something that is like that would be a great way to actually mitigate the socialist movement of healthcare for all, because there's too many people like me and Mike that don't want to pay for Joe Schmo down the road that doesn't want to put down the fork and develops all of these health diseases because he doesn't take care of himself. Like we should be able to write off our own stuff, and that kind of mitigates the issue of the tax. Now, honestly, personally, I think that when it comes to the whole health insurance, you guys know how I feel about the pharmaceutical companies. So, like, we don't have to really dive into that. I think that whole thing needs to be somehow. I'm not saying the government needs to come in and make a move and kind of monitor it because that's way too outside of capitalism for me. What I think they need to do is actually open the market and allow foreign companies to actually come here like they do in every other country to make it competitive, make it even more capitalistic, and allow for Moderna, Pfizer, and all these other companies have to compete for the service, or else they lose
But imagine
customers
that.
completely.
Imagine what are we? 340 million Americans filing for
Hmm.
writing off their medical debt. Imagine that. All that money
Hmm.
being deprived. All
Yeah,
that money being
I'm all for
deprived
that.
of the federal government. I'm all for it.
I mean, personally, I'm for it. So it's like it's one of those things. Like, I mean, there's fraud with taxes all the time. Personally, and you look at the tax code, like it's voluntary. You don't have to pay taxes. There's a way to do it, and the easiest way. And I want to say it on here for you guys. For those that are employed, right? W-2 employees. Have you ever read your what is it?
W4.
The W-9 that you sign? W-4. I'm sorry. The W-4. It quite literally is you
Just
volunteering to pay
read the tax
taxes.
code.
Read
Read
it
the tax
sometime.
code, because there is not one singular tax code.
You don't even have to read the tax code.
No,
Just read the forms that you're signing. I never
I
have until somebody pointed it out to me.
I
And I'm like, holy crap,
I
it actually
plead
is.
with everybody to read the tax code. Even those of you that don't like to read your tax code, read your constitution, read your state constitution. You'll be a better person for it. You'll be able to arm yourself with the knowledge to deter government from stealing from you, not just your money, but also your rights.
But also, you can, not allow yourself to look uneducated when you act like you are. For instance, I'm gonna bring it up. Yesterday, I had a friendly debate with an individual that didn't agree with one of my videos. And he was allowed to bring the topic, right? Was I was spreading misinformation about a certain candidate in Michigan. As you guys know me, I'm originally from Michigan, so I pay attention to politics up there. And we got into a deep dive around, Islam, Christianity, stuff like that, because that's really the sole purpose of the candidate. And, he's being attacked for only being a Muslim. And that's not the case, honestly. But I it's like if you read, you won't allow yourself to get to the point where you literally have to concede live time. And in my debate, I made this guy concede on 7 different topics, 7 different points, and just random things he was claiming to be true, and we fact checked live time. And it's like that's just not right. So reading is vital, guys. Is the sole purpose of this, not just because you know you the government and all this stuff. And Mike's saying that's very important. Like that's probably more important than what I'm saying, but it also doesn't. It makes
It
you not
was
look
the
stupid.
most boring debate I've ever watched because Nate's very articulate when he debates, and the fact that this gentleman had to concede on things because he in fact did not read made it not just humiliating, but it made it very boring for me because there was no like intellectual back and forth. Intellectual back and forth is amazing, and it
Hmm.
keeps you engaged. This one, I was having a hard time staying awake.
I mean, Mike saw like you even mentioned it during or right after. You were like, "Man, you look more bored than I was." It's like kind of am. You can't really get into a debate with somebody that's nice and like he was very nice. He was good. Like he was a good sport about it. It wasn't like he was calling me names and being all emotional about it and stuff like that. But it's good to have that conversation. I would have another conversation with him, but and I even offered to have another debate on some other topic just because of
Mhm.
how
And
bad
if
that one
anybody if
was.
anybody
But
has a topic,
the
if
the
anybody has a
moral
topic,
of the story,
debate,
yeah, I mean the moral of the story
yeah.
is just
And if any of
read.
you are watching and you want to debate me and Nate on any topic, whether it be debating just me or debating just Nate, by all means reach out. We'll debate you. Good faith conversation, a little back and forth. Hmm.
Good faith.
We're very chill.
No screaming, no emotions. We'll set the parameters of it. We offer that to anybody. And honestly, I'll even debate with some of the right wing people because there's some things that you guys stand for that I don't think you're very educated on. I say it all the time, right? And I know this is gonna hurt some of y'all's feelings, especially coming from our show. Is there's just as many stupid people on the right as there is the left, and the reason is because you guys don't
I
read
have
just as much
more
as the left
fun
doesn't.
debating my fellow Republicans because at least they have a variation of topics that they discuss that they might be wrong on, and the left is this this compilation of high five.
It's like all scripted. You know what they're gonna say. It's just like a circular conversation because we've done it so many times. We know what they're gonna say. When we bring up this point, they're gonna say this. And we're gonna counter with
I've
that, and
I've
they're
done
gonna
that
counter with that.
actually. I've actually listed out the steps, and the guy just left.
Oh, I could write out a script with a conversation with the leftists and say this is what's gonna happen, this, and this, and I promise you it will go exactly
Yeah,
that way.
but it's hilarious at the
So,
end of the day. But if anybody has any questions concerning any of the topics that we've covered or any topics we haven't covered, by all means reach out. Um, let's see what else is going on in the world.
well, I mean, with that, I mean, when it comes to everything going on, we're going to pay attention, kind of wrap up here just with, paying attention to what's going on with Iran. The president said, you know, just a couple days ago that it was, he keeps saying it too, but Iran keeps like kind of backtracking on what they're actually telling him. But he did come out and say that they've agreed to some terms, so we'll see what, that happens. We'll kind of see what happens with Congress over the next few weeks leading into the midterms, but we'll keep you guys all updated as well and keep you on the right path. But remember, just read.
Please,
Any final
for
words
the
for you,
love of
Mike?
God, get out and vote.
Yes, absolutely vote. But we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming by.